Broadcasting live from beautiful downtown Cleveland at 82 degrees and humid. It's station WDWL TV, home of not one but two stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and an Oscar. And unfortunately, we're brought to you by Grumpy Vulture Productions. And we had a giant mishap just before showtime. I was getting everything all set, and then all of a sudden, the mount broke. It was a little wobbly, and I thought it was just maybe a loose nut somewhere, but nope, it snapped right in half. Luckily, I caught the mic before it hit the floor, so now I have to go back in the storeroom and come up with another mount. And yes, it was bagpipes. It is a tune called Scotch on the Rocks, and it's done by the Royal Black Watch Pipe and Drum Band. And that song was recorded like back in the 60s. If I get a copyright strike, I'm going to be pissed. Which YouTube, they don't have... They'll find any excuse to give you a strike, but bagpipe music, I doubt if it's copyrighted. I have the album. We're going way back. Vinyl. This particular tune, I was going originally, we're talking, 6-7 years ago? Instead of doing what I was doing, I was going to do what I call, like the radio station, afternoon drive. And this is a perfect song for an afternoon drive radio station because the name of the tune is Scotch on the Rocks. And I thought it was so appropriate, and I had forgotten all about it. Like I say, I have the album in the bedroom. Well, I pulled the little the little TF memory cards out of both of the MP3 players. I was listening to music on them today. It's unbelievable. I haven't touched them things in like 20 years. And they were at 90% charge on both of them. So I pulled the little TF cards out. And I plugged the unit into the computer here. I could not believe how much music that I had on those little memory cards that basically I had gotten back in the day from the original free site that I was getting, mp3juices.cc. I found the name of the website, mp3juices.cc. I did not check I basically heard they were shut down. I got a shitload of music. Well, since I have it on those little memory cards, I was able to plug my, let me show you here, my card reader. Now, here's them little itty bitty these things hold like 200 songs. So I had to put it in an adapter, and then I plugged it into the computer, and I was playing all the music. I have such a variety, so I decided to experiment. So I plugged this into my Panasonic ToughPad, and I clicked on USB device. All the music came up on the screen, and I was able to drag and drop my Scotch on the Rocks. So now that I know I can transfer music, I'm going to take some older, probably forgotten music, and every now and then I'll have a different intro. But I'm going to use my Scotch on the Rocks, since it was something I planned on using 6-7 years ago. And I went up to Gigantic Eaglet. I grabbed 3 dozen eggs. I put them on the belt. The girls scanned them. Came up 95 cents. I handed her $1. I got my nickel back, and away I went. Because I brought the ad up on the phone. And as she went to scan them, I said, "Is this 100% correct?" And she goes, "Watch." And she scanned, and up on the goddamn, well, everything's a computer screen now. 95 cents. Food item, no tax. I gave her $1. Out the door I went. I might go back tomorrow because even, I asked her, I said, it says, one promotion per household. I said, if I want 3 more dozen tomorrow, am I going to have a problem? She said, no. As far as we're concerned, you're a different customer. We don't care. I don't know if I'm going to go back and get 3 more dozen. That's a little greedy. But I am going to make my pickled beets and onions and eggs. And then I'll have a dozen left over for whatever. I'll use them. But, yeah, 3 dozen large eggs, 95 cents. And I expected a crowd. The store, I was there at 11 o'clock. There were maybe 20 customers in the store. And I was wandering around checking carts. And out of the 20, there were only 3 that had eggs. I thought people would be bounding in that store to get 3 dozen eggs for 95 cents. I even mentioned it to the cashier. I said, man, I expected, because all of us seniors, we're shopping in the morning, and, the people on their way home from work are shopping at 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock. So, yeah, as a matter of fact, I walked past and a woman goes, what are you looking at? I said, I'm looking to see how many people have eggs. She says, well, it's obvious I have mine. I thought for sure. Of course, who knows what hit the store after 3 o'clock? The egg case could have gotten emptied. But I am considering getting another 3 dozen because they will keep in the fridge. I don't know how long they would keep in the fridge before they would be considered old. I never pay attention to the sell-by date on eggs. But that egg case was just stacked. Of course, 3 dozen at a time are going to be going out, but they had, matter of fact, it was overflowing like into the extra large and the small. There was like one row maybe with 10 or 12 dozen small, and then 2 rows of extra large, maybe 20, and then the whole case was just stacked. I grabbed my 3, and the girl kind of looked at me. She goes, that's it? That's it. 95 cents, please. Give me my nickel. And see, I have that goddamn Giant Eagle card, which you get points towards discount on fuel. I don't use Get-Go gas because Get-Go gas is shit. Because I said to her, I says, now that you've scanned my card, am I going to have a problem if I want 3 dozen tomorrow? And she said, no, this is basically for your points towards your gas discount. I said, well, my points expire because I don't use Get-Go gas. Get-Go gas is crap. Get-Go gas is actually like worse than BP. And that's what that gas is. BP. I get shitty mileage off that stuff. I'm just about at half a tank, so I'm going to go up to Sunoco, and although, like Ryan said, you should empty the tank, I was like, oh, God, no. I can't afford 18 gallons. Yesterday it said Saturday. Book 2 arrived today. And, oh God, what the hell's the name of the bookseller? Half Price Books. Half Price Books. Now, this wasn't half price. It was $10 off, but it wasn't half price. As a matter of fact, book 3 was full price. So, book 2 came out of Half Price Books in Illinois. Or book 3. Book 2 came out of Half Price Books in Texas. So that explains why they didn't send them together. Evidently, in Illinois, Half Price Books didn't have it. So they contacted another. I thought Half Price Books was gone, because the one that was in Westlake is gone. I don't know if they're strictly an online, but the store that was in Westlake not only is it's gone, they tore it down. It was in an older building. I went out there one day and it was a vacant lot. And they didn't move anywhere. So the Half Price Books we had in Westlake just vanished. Although the place was never really busy. But there were some deals. Now, out in Bay Village, I think it's Barnes and Noble. I can't believe that big-ass huge store is still open, because Barnes and Noble closed a lot of their stores. And this one in Bay Village is fucking huge. Anytime I've been in there, there were more clerks than customers. Although I like, they've got couches and comfy chairs, and you can sit down and read a book in the store. Matter of fact, one time I was in there, I told a girl, I said, I could read the whole book here, put it back in the pile, and not buy anything. She goes, you wouldn't be the first one. Oh, don't look at the light. There's going to be extensive shine because I got the weed whacker out today. All right. Book 2. Well, there's a business card from M.F. Steen that fell out of the front of the book. And this is a used book because it's autographed. Just for David. Thanks for all your help and encouragement. M.F. Steen, 11/17/05. It's an autographed copy, but it should say just for Grumpy. Interesting, I get a business card with his phone number, Santa Monica, California. Celebrity death certificates. Yeah, maybe it was. That's kind of a bonus. It's cool to have a business card from the author. I will put that in my memorabilia. The book is in excellent condition. It just got a little itty bitty damage down here. Otherwise, oh my God. I was watching, this is odd. I was watching a documentary on this person last night. And he called himself the richest unknown actor in Hollywood. Because for all of the time that he played in movies, TV, and commercials, no one could ever remember his name. Because he was always a second. You know, he wasn't a main player. Except for his own TV series, which he had 2. And he said even though he had 2 TV series, people on the street could never remember his name. Claude Akins. And it was interesting watching that documentary at 3 o'clock this morning. And who is the first certificate but his? He died in 94. Of course, motion picture, television. Cardiopulmonary arrest, congestive heart failure, due to cancer of stomach. That's what they said in the documentary last night. And he never told anyone. He basically kind of quietly retired, and no one knew except his family and close friends. Where, a lot of stars, they'll make an announcement to the press. He was always a very private person. Like they said in the documentary last night, when he left what he called work, he left work at the studio. And he considered himself a blue-collar worker, even though he was making money hand over fist. He said when he did the series Moving On, people still couldn't remember his name. Hey, you're the guy, you're the trucker on TV. You're on Moving On. People couldn't remember his fucking name. And he was in the industry 40 years. His kids had no idea what he did until they saw him on TV. Because before, I can't remember if it was before Moving On or after. I think he did Moving On, and then he was Sheriff Lobo. And then they did a spin-off, The Misadventures of Sheriff Lobo, and it only ran for like 1 or 2 seasons, and then viewership kind of crashed, and they canceled it. His kids didn't know what he did until one day it was like, hey, Dad's on TV. Even though he had made a shitload of movies, but he never brought his work home. And producers and directors basically demanded him as a background actor because he was always on time. He never argued with any producer or director, and he always knew his lines. And he said, because they asked him, aren't you upset that you've never had a starring role in any movie? He said, hell no. I'm making big money to stand in the background and say a few words now and then. I could care less. I'm working. He took anything and everything. He said 1 month he was shooting a Western. The next month he was in a war movie. Whatever. He never argued. Because he was in more motion pictures than some of the big stars. As a background person, that maybe he said in one movie he had 2 lines. But he said, they paid me $50,000. Didn't bother me. He was one of the richest unknowns. That's what he kept saying. I'm one of the richest unknown actors in the industry. It was a very interesting documentary. He was a very humble person. Oh boy, this name rings a bell. Jack Albertson. He died in 81. Jack Albertson. I really hate going back to the cheat sheet. Chico and the Man. Yeah. Okay. Colon cancer. Oh, colon and liver cancer. Holy shit. Oh, here's a name everybody would know watching TV back when we were young. Maury Amsterdam. The Dick Van Dyke Show. Acute myocardial infarction. All right, this one died in '03. Actor, entertainer, Royce Applegate. And he's got 2 death certificates. First one is deferred. Royce Applegate. Birth name, Royce Applegate. He was in vaudeville. He's remembered for his character Buddy Sorrell on the Dick Van Dyke Show. Oh, no. Sorry. That's Maury. Come on, Grumpy, get rid of it. Royce Applegate. Birth name, Roy Applegate. Movie and television series kept him active for 30 years. His 2 movies were Seabiscuit and Gods and Generals. Let's go to death certificate number 2. Smoke inhalation, residential fire. Died in a house fire. Now, why didn't they put that on the first certificate? Jeez. Oh, now here's another one from our younger years. Jim Backus. Jim Backus. I remember the name. Perhaps his most memorable movie role was in Rebel Without a Cause. He was Thurston Howell III on Gilligan's Island. That's right. That's what, yeah, Jim Backus, the millionaire. Died of pneumonia. Now this is from 1980. Red Berry. Birth name Donald Michael Berry. Red Berry. Freelance actor and entertainer. Gunshot wound perforating head and neck. Ow, 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 ow. The S word. Now this is from 2000. Billy Barty. Birth name William John Barty. Billy Barty. Actor, entertainer. Billy Barty. I should keep my thumb in the cheat sheet area. Billy Barty. Film credits include Wetted Blisters, Nothing Sacred, where he bit Francis March on the leg. He made appearances on television on Mr. Lucky, Get Smart, Peter Gunn, and many others. Billy Barty. Good suggestion. Good idea. That's probably what it was used for. Billy Barty. Cardiopulmonary arrest. Okay. Ralph Bellamy. Died in 91. Ralph Bellamy. Motion Pictures. Ralph Bellamy. The Awful Truth in 1937. Oh. Earned him an Oscar nomination. He often played the other man in strong supportive roles. He portrayed Franklin Roosevelt on Broadway. Little bit before my time. COPD. William Bendix. William Bendix. That name is another bell ringer. Birth name, William Bendix. He was nominated for Academy Award for Wake Island. Two other films were The Glass Key and Lifeboat. He brought the character Chester A. Riley from radio to small screen in The Life of Riley. Well, that's way before my time. Pneumonia. Oh, this 1932. Well, 1996. Ted Bessell. Bessell. Ted Bessell. Birth name, Howard Weston Russell Jr. Howard Weston Bessell Jr. Actor, entertainer. Ted Bessell. Yeah. He was Don Hollinger on That Girl. That was his big break, it says. Don Hollinger on That Girl. I remember That Girl, but we're taxing my memory banks. Dissecting a aortic aneurysm. That don't sound good. Well, this is from 78. Probably nobody I would know. Carl Betts. Birth name, Carl Lawrence Betts. Actor, entertainer, Carl Betts. Chi time, Carl Betts. He started in radio, worked on Broadway. He was on the Donna Reed Show for 8 years. And also starred in Judd for the Defense. He was the father, huh? Okay. I vaguely remember the Donna Reed Show. Bronchial pneumonia. Now this is from 69. Madge Blake. Madge Blake. Madge Blake. Birth name, Madge Blake. Began her career in motion pictures in Adam's Rib in an uncredited role. Her well-known characters on television were Flora McMichaels on The Real McCoys and Margaret Mondello in Leave It to Beaver and Aunt Harriet Cooper on Batman. I can't place her. Out of all them shows. Cause of death. Fracture of left ankle. That's what it says. Cause of death, fracture of left ankle. That's strange. Oh, we all know who this guy is. Mel Blanc. I have a print that has Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Foghorn Leghorn, oh God. I can't remember all of the cartoon. Where is that print? I think it's out in the living room hanging up. And it's got all the cartoon characters with their heads bowed. And I can't remember. Oh. You know, Mel Blanc is too important to. Let me go look at what that print says. I'm not going to take it down because it's a big framed, matted, fancy print. Let me see what it says. That should have been an easy one to remember. Jeez. It's got Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Sylvester, Yosemite Sam, Foghorn Leghorn, did I say Porky Pig? Pepe Le Pew, and they all have their heads bowed, and it just says speechless. I've had the thing. I'm trying to think where I got it from. I think it was gifted to me. It was shortly after he passed. Maybe a year later, they came out with this. I mean, it's framed, it's matted. I'm going to have to look and see if it's numbered. And it basically moves from house to house to house with me. Like my swag lamp in my kitchen. Because that was a housewarming gift back in 1971 when I moved into my house, which was gifted to me by my high school math teacher who just lives up the street. Because back in the day, him and I used to work on cars together. Yeah, he was a math teacher by day and a shoehorn mechanic at night. Yeah, poor Mel. Cardiopulmonary collapse. Basically, his heart gave out. Oh, secondary cause, stroke. He survived a extremely serious auto accident. If I remember right, because they were in the middle of production for something, and while he was recuperating in the hospital, he did a lot of the voices. They recorded them in the hospital. He was that important. Oh, here, we all know this guy, Dan Blocker. Hoss. Died from a pulmonary embolism. His name was Dan Davis Blocker. Yeah, I remember when he passed. That was shocking. Humphrey Bogart. We all remember Humphrey Bogart. Died from cancer of the esophagus. Good old Bogey. Died in 57. Well, I remember him from movies. Okay, 2002, Margaret Booth. Margaret Booth. Back to the bookmark. Margaret Booth. Birth name Margaret Elizabeth Booth. Okay. Oh, she was a film editor. She received an honorary Oscar in 1977 for the accumulation of work in her field. She died at the age of 104. She originally started at the Louis B. Mayer Studios. Wow. Lived to 104. God bless her. Respiratory failure due to pneumonia. Well, yeah, 104. All right, this one's from 72. William Boyd. Birth name William Lawrence Boyd. He made a total of 54 Hoppies, short for Hopalong Cassidy movies. He was one of the few actors who purchased all the rights to his pictures. His marketing and licensing skills made him a multi-billionaire. Wow. Oh, for Christ's sake. This doctor needs to go back to learn penmanship. Congestive heart failure. Holy Christ. Man, I could see him writing a prescription and the pharmacist would be like, take this back to the doctor or I can't fucking read it. This is from 04, William Boyette. Birth name was Harry William Boyette. Television and radio. William Boyette. He was a veteran stage, screen, and television character. He was one of the last surviving members of the Jack Webb Stock Company. Boyette was seen in Dragnet during the 50s and 60s. Webb cast him as Mac McDonald on Adam 12. I remember Adam 12, but I don't remember Mac McDonald. Blunt head trauma. Fall at home. Fell down and whacked his head. Man, must have been a hard fall. Although a lot of them goddamn houses for movie stars all had marble floors. Oh, good old Marlon Brando. Died in 04. Pulmonary fibrosis. Okay. Okay. Now, this is a name that I could not fucking remember the other night. And remember, I had mentioned I called my fish breeding company when I was breeding the tiger Oscars, Sea Hunt Aquarium. After one of my favorite shows when I was young, Sea Hunt. And I could not think of the star, Lloyd Bridges. I could not think of that name to save my life. He died in 98. Congestive heart failure. He enjoyed scuba diving so much that he literally talked the studio into coming up with that program. Because he said it's taking place mostly underwater. And he said, you know, mysteries, which every show was a mystery, they take place on land. And he talked them into writing the series, and they had to spend a fortune for specialized underwater cameras. And the show, I'll tell you what, back in the day, it was popular. And I loved Sea Hunt. I never missed a show. Good old Lloyd Bridges. He was, you know, he was that convincing to literally talk a studio into writing a show to be filmed underwater. But he was an avid scuba diver. And he said, people will watch because I'm underwater. They like seeing, you know, the scenes underwater. And I don't think a show went by that somebody wasn't underwater with him taking a shot at him. Like a gun is going to fire that well underwater, you know. Oh, yeah. I mean, when he presented the idea, because I read a bit on him, and I can't remember who was head of the studio where he pitched the idea, and they laughed him out. They were like, you got to be kidding me. A scuba diver? And, you know, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And he just kept up and kept up. But, you know, he was also a pretty good name out in Hollywood. And he kept pestering them. And they finally went, all right, we'll write you a show. And it took off. He said by the second show, they had a dedicated audience. The ratings were unbelievable because it was underwater. And it was unheard of back in the day. I can't remember what they spent on the goddamn... It was like $100,000 for the underwater cameras. It wasn't a cheap series to film because they had to have multiple cameras underwater, and they were doing it in the ocean. It wasn't on the back lot of the studio. They literally filmed it out in the ocean, which made it more difficult because you can't control the ocean. If you're filming in a big giant tank in a motion picture studio, you can control what goes on. It was an interesting read. It really was. Okay, another one we know, Charles Bronson. Metastatic lung cancer. He died in '03. Good old Charles Bronson. How old was he? 81. Good for him. Oh, here's another. These are too easy. Foster Brooks. I remember Foster Brooks from the Dean Martin roasts because he was the drunk and he would talk and burp and... Oh, I love Foster Brooks. And that was his name, Foster Brooks. died in '01. Cardiac arrest. How old was good old Foster? 89. God love him. Oh, these are too easy. Rory Calhoun. Who doesn't know Rory Calhoun? Come on. Died in '99 at the age of 76. Cardiopulmonary arrest. Good old Rory. Okay. This is from '94. McDonald Carey. Now I have to go to the cheat sheet for McDonald Carey, and we have to move the bookmark. Replace the bookmark. McDonald Carey made his film debut in Dr. Broadway. He had roles in a number of westerns, including Comanche Territory, Copper Canyon, and the Great Missouri Raid. In his rich, comforting voice, that was heard at the beginning of each program, so are the days of our lives. That was him saying it. I'll be damned. McDonald Carey, cardiopulmonary arrest. Oy, oy, oy. Oh, God. These are too easy. Johnny Carson. I remember when Johnny died. Boy, that was big news. Died from emphysema. Of course, he used to smoke 3 to 4 packs of non-filtered... What did he smoke? Viceroys, Chesterfields. They said in his younger days, when he first got, the Tonight Show, it was one after another. He'd be smoking one, and it would be almost down, and then he'd light another cigarette off that one. He was a chain smoker. I miss good old Johnny. Oh, man. Oh, jeez. Okay, Nell Carter. We all know who Nell Carter is. Died in 2003. Deferred. Do we have a second death certificate? No. Deferred. Does it say in the cheat area? Cause of death is probable heart disease. Didn't they do an autopsy? No. No autopsy done. She died at her residence and went right to the mortuary. And then she was cremated. Wow, that's no autopsy, nothing on the death certificate. That's strange. Oh. These are too easy. He saved all of these. Well, this is book 2. Ray Charles. Who doesn't know Ray Charles? Died from cancer, secondary cause cirrhosis of the liver. Non-alcoholic cirrhosis of the liver. That's odd. Because usually when you get cirrhosis, it's from drinking. It says non-alcoholic cirrhosis of liver. Oh, did she have diabetes? I remember Nell Carter, but the death certificate said nothing. Now, I know if she had recent doctor's care and the doctor agrees to sign the death certificate, the body can go right to the funeral home, but it's signed by a deputy coroner, but it basically no autopsy. It's basically she went from her home right to Hillside Memorial Park mortuary. So she must have been under like saw a doctor. You know, of course, for the stars, the doctors do house calls. Now, this is from 2003. Lana Clarkson. A double death certificate. First death certificate says deferred. All right, let's see what Lana Clarkson's claim to fame is. Lana Jean Clarkson was her birth name.
Played in Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Barbarian Queen 2, The Emperor Strikes Back. She was found shot to death at the home of Phil Spector. I remember that one. Oh, God, I remember that one. That was on the news for a week. Gunshot wound of head and neck. Yeah, I remember that. Phil Spector. Cause of death. Shot by another. Because I remember Spector denied it. For the longest time, it was somebody in my house. Well, yeah, you. Here's another one. Rosemary Clooney. We all know Rosemary Clooney. These are too easy tonight. It's almost like he did this deliberately so that you would buy book 3, figuring they're all going to be easy. She died in 2002. Respiratory arrest, end-stage lung cancer. Oh. In the middle of the book is my receipt. All kinds of treasures in this book. Maybe there's a $50 bill somewhere. No, I can't get that lucky. James Coburn. Cardiac arrest. Died in 2002. Oh, Jesus. And the next one is Emma Jean Coca. Her name was Imogene Coca Donovan. Died in 2001. Alzheimer's. I liked Imogene Coca. She was cool. Oh, geez. Iron Eyes Cody. Birth name Oscar Iron Eyes Cody. Died in 1999. Oh, this has got to be a good one. Iron Eyes Cody. He had to play in a Western. He was considered the first American Indian to be cast as an American Indian. I wouldn't think they would cast an American Indian as a Polish immigrant. Although there is a real question as to whether he was an American Indian or not. Holy shit. Oh, God, now I know who he is. He's the crying Indian in the Keep America Beautiful commercials. The Iron Eyes Cody. I remember those commercials for Keep America Beautiful. He had a tear in his eye. Really? Well, that's interesting to be named after a movie star. Especially with the name of Imogene. Not common. What did Iron Eyes Cody die from? Congestive heart failure. And the next star is Nat King Cole. I have, God, do I have 2 or 3 of his albums? One of these days I have to go through my vinyl. I have either 2 or 3 of his albums. One of these days I'll get my component system wired up and I'll be able to play some. Died from lung cancer. Oh, we finally got one that we probably have no idea. Of course, from 1965, so Ray Collins. Ray Collins. Back to the bookmark. Ray Collins. He was a character member of the Orson Welles Mercury Theater. He was in Citizen Kane, The Magnificent Ambersons, and Touch of Evil. He portrayed Lieutenant Tragg on Perry Mason. You know, he had a lot of hit songs, and I really liked his music. My favorite was Ramblin' Rose. I love that song. Out of all of Ramblin' Rose, for some reason, I just love that song. Ray Collins died from bronchial pneumonia. Oh, here's a 2-parter. Ray Combs, 1996. Actor, entertainer, Ray Combs. Ray Combs. He was the host of the TV series Family Feud from 88 to 94. I'm trying to picture him. I used to watch Family Feud. Cause of death. Hanging. Wow. Hung himself in a hospital with sheet. I like the little note at the bottom, with sheet. He was in a hospital. He hung himself in the hospital with sheet. Very interesting. Where were the nurses? Now, this is from '84, but I remember Jackie Coogan. I remember Jackie Coogan. Jackie Coogan was on the Addams Family. He was Fester, wasn't he? Oh, he was in a psych ward. Wow. But wasn't he Uncle Fester? Wow, that's interesting. Jackie Coogan died from cardiac arrest. Did we... And this is from '99. Ellen Corby. Actress, entertainer. Ellen Corby. Ellen Corby. She was Aunt Trina in I Remember Mama. And she was Grandma Walton from 72 to 79. Ellen Corby, Grandma Walton. Cardiopulmonary failure due to chronic stroke and diabetes. Didn't we do Joseph Cotton? Evidently not. They're in alphabetical order, asshole. Joseph Cotton. I remember the name. Citizen Kane and the Third Man. I thought we did that one. Died from COPD. This is from '73. Wally Cox. Actor. National Broadcasting Company, radio and television. Wally Cox. He was a lifelong friend of Marlon Brando. Mr. Peepers, and the voice of Underdog. He was the upper left square on Hollywood Squares from 66 to 73. Deferred. Oh. Atherosclerotic heart disease. I don't know why they don't have a secondary death certificate. This is from '03, Richard Crenna. Richard Crenna. I recognize the name. Let's see what the claim to fame is. He starred in Armis Brooks, The Real McCoys, Slattery's People, and on the big screen he portrayed Sylvester Stallone's commanding officer in First Blood. And he was in Rambo sequels. Okay. Pancreatic cancer. Now this is either '03 or '08 because it's like typed over. God, you'd think that somebody would have put a little whiteout on there and straightened it out. '03. Look at the date at the bottom with the official stamp, idiot. Hume Cronin. The name sounds familiar. Hume Cronin. Two of his films were with his wife Jessica Tandy. Cocoon and Batteries Not Included. He received an Emmy for his role in Broadway Bound. Prostate cancer. This is from 1990. Robert Cummings. Entertainer, self-employed actor. Robert Cummings. I'm drawing a blank. He made light comedies in the 30s and 40s. In the 50s, he switched to television. His two series were The Bob Cummings Show and My Living Doll. Neither one ring a bell. And Robert Cummings died from cardiac arrest. And the next star is Rodney Dangerfield. And we all know Rodney. Good old Rodney. Ischemic colitis causing sepsis. That don't sound comfortable. This one's from 85. You know, I love watching Johnny Carson reruns with Rodney. He could, I'll tell you what, he could pop off one-liners. Oh, God, what was his doctor's name? Dr. Vinny Bombaz or something like that. I had to go see my doctor, Vinny Bombaz or something. Although, I'll tell you what, my opinion, he was better as a stand-up comedian, to me, than he was in the movies. Because he was so basically typecast as a comedian, it was hard to see him as an actor, to me. Now, other people might think the world of him in movies. He wasn't a movie person to me. Yeah, he made good money from movies, but he should have stayed as a comedian. Because I didn't care for any of the movies he was in. And like I say, it was because the way he was, his characters in the movie weren't him. And I think some of it was like overplayed. My opinion. There might be people that say, oh, he should have got Oscars and Academy Awards and Golden Globes and SAG Awards. My opinion. He was better as a comedian. And yeah, I'll tell you what, he would just about knock Johnny off a chair. And every time he came on the show, he lit up a cigarette. He would bum a cigarette from Johnny. He'd no sooner sit down, he'd reach right into Johnny's cigarette box, and then Johnny would light his cigarette. He always smoked on the Carson show. And what people don't know, in the beginning, Rodney Dangerfield wrote for Joan Rivers. People don't know that. He was one of Joan Rivers' writers. And he would do the jokes to her, you know. And she was like, Rodney, you need to be on stage doing these jokes yourself. And she discovered Rodney. She got him his career. People don't know that. And the reason I know it is he told Carson one night. And this was before the fallout with Carson and Joan Rivers. Because I'm sure if he would have mentioned Joan, Johnny would have thrown him off the stage. Because Johnny, up until he died, hated Joan Rivers. Because he thought, you know, when she got that show on Fox and didn't tell him or confide in him, he felt slighted. But what Johnny doesn't know, up until the day Joan died, monthly, she put flowers on Carson's grave. Because Carson made her a star. Once a month, she would put flowers on Carson's grave. Because even though he quit talking to her and tried to have her blacklisted, she respected him. Because the night she was on the Tonight Show and did her comedy routine and then sat down at the desk and Johnny said, "You're going to be a star," she said the next morning her phone rang off the hook. And you know, for the way he treated her, it just goes to show Joan was a better person because even his Alex Maz or something, even she didn't put flowers on his grave. She just spent Carson's money. Next one, Selma Diamond. Died in 85. Boy, that name sounds familiar. Selma Diamond. Gotta go to the cheat sheet. Nominated for an Emmy in 56 as a writer on Caesar's Hour. Actress, she played Selma Hacker on Night Court. And she made 5 appearances on The Tonight Show within 8 months. Boy, that's odd. There must have been something to her that Johnny kept bringing her back. 5 appearances within 8 months. I can't place Selma Diamond. I watched Night Court. Selma Hacker on Night Court. I can't picture her. Died from cancer. Another easy one, Troy Donahue. Troy Donahue died in 2001 at the age of 65. Cardiac arrest. Interesting. All right, this is from 97. David Doyle. Actor, entertainer, director. David Doyle. Oh, really? Now I can place her. Now I can place her. I was thinking the judge. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I liked Night Court. It was funny. It was different. All right, David Doyle. Back to the cheat sheet. Charlie's Angels. He was Bosley. You got it, Ron. He was Bosley. David Doyle. Acute pulmonary edema. Secondary cause, lung cancer. Well, 1934. Forget that one. We won't know that one. Okay. This is from 1990. Irene Dunn. Actress, motion pictures. Irene Dunn. Irene Dunn. The First Lady of Hollywood. She received 5 Academy Award nominations. The first was a role in Cimarron. I Remember Mama was the film that many thought should have, turn page, move bookmark, should have earned her the Oscar. Her last movie was It Grows on Trees. Irene Dunn. Myocardial insufficiency. Basically heart failure. Because if your myocardial is insufficient, you got problems. Where's Fatso? The skinny mini is standing here looking at me. Where's Fatso? That's odd. The skinny mini is standing here looking at me, and no Fatso. Was he too lazy? He sent you? He said, I'm hungry. Go bug him? She is so cute when she sits and looks. She got big green eyes. Okay, we'll do one more, and I'll feed yous. Another easy one. Buddy Epson. Died in 2003 at the age of 95. Wow, God love him. Had a stroke. Secondary cause, pneumonia. Wow. All right, we got to put a bookmark in where we stopped. Oh, let's do two more. We'll do two more. Although this is from 1960, so Hope Emerson. Hope Emerson. Actress, entertainer, Hope Emerson. Cobb's Corner, Dennis O'Keefe Show. In Peter Gunn, she portrayed his mother. She was also the voice of Elsie the cow in the Borden commercials. What a thing to be known for, Elsie the cow. What did she pass from? Colon cancer. Okay. She takes a couple of steps forward and sits down. A couple of steps and sits down. Okay, one more. Last one. And we all know Norman Fell. Died in 98. At the age of 74. Norman Fell. Yeah, I recognize the name. Mr. Roper. Oh, God, yeah, Mr. Roper. Norman Fell, Mr. Roper. Alzheimer's. Died from Alzheimer's. And we're going to put a bookmark where we stopped. We're about a third of the way through. Okay, cutie, okay. She's just about at my feet now. Okay. You must really be fucking hungry. It's odd that Fatso isn't here. Although, I'll tell you what, lately, she has been coming down more during the day. And she's a window cat. Again, today. It was about, let's see, I came back from the store at 1. Of course, as soon as I come in, they both, they're both sitting there looking at me. And I was reading a news story about 1:30, and I hear this noise out of the kitchen that sounded like a baby mountain lion. I'll tell you what, where that noise comes from, well, Boots wouldn't get out of the window. I have 2 windows in the kitchen. The one is stuck shut. What I should do is pry it open and WD-40 the shit out of it so that each of them can have a window. But the noise, it sounded like a baby mountain lion. She took off back into the kitchen now. Probably telling Boots, he's in there screwing off. Okay, everybody. Thanks for being here.
We'll meet again. Don't know
we know where, right here.
Don't know where.
Have a wonderful rest of your evening. We will meet again right here tomorrow night. And with that, everybody, be safe, take care, and we will see you tomorrow. See you, bye-bye. Bye-bye, bye.